The Hell in a Cell, the pay-per-view, the match, it was amazing the way that they were able to put that together. I gave them some slack on putting a hat on a hat, the toolbox and the gimmicks and the kendo stick and the Hell in a Cell and everything, because they went 30 minutes and one guy had one arm. So they were trying to gimmick it up to keep the flow going and to cover up for the things that Cody couldn't do. And it actually, I got to be honest with you, if there was a way that they could have worked that match without the injury actually being real, they couldn't have done it any better. For a guy with one arm selling a bad arm, selling a wrestling injury, to have that match, it couldn't have been done any better. The bruising had the people at the start because they could see it everywhere, and you just heard, and it took them a few minutes, do you notice, to get into the match because they were still a little queasy. They went, instead of ooh, they went ooh, and they were kind of standoffish with it at first until they really got going.
They got into it there, but I do think that's the reaction a lot of people at home had, was just it was hard to truly get into it because you actually were worried about the guy. It looked really bad.
But the way that they took him on the ride and built it, they got him at the end, and I think the people got back in it like, we think he's going to do it. The play-by-play of the match wasn't as important as just the overall way they structured it. Cody brought out some of his dad there. That was a smoke and mirrors deal. He couldn't do a lot of his regular shit. If he did do it, it looked different because that even affects your balance just when he's trying to run and jump up on the ropes. And just a lot of people said, well, how much more damage could he have done? If he tore the thing off the bone, it's torn. That's like, you can't get more pregnant, right? So as long as he wanted to put up with fucking excruciating pain on a regular basis for a half an hour, he wasn't going to do a lot more fucking damage to his pec, but god damn. But just the way that they structured it and they kept it alive, and Cody fought from underneath the whole time, obviously, because the one-armed man, can't just be the world beater. But he did it enough and in enough logical ways and often enough, but not too often. It kept him in it, but still Seth got tons of heat and he whipped him with the weight belt. The only thing I didn't like about the match, and it wasn't what the boys did, it's what the people did. Did you notice Seth Rollins with the heel was the guy that twice he pulled a table out from under the ring? And they're in Chicago. It's not even Philadelphia. But every time that he pulled the table out, the fans cheered like crazy. Now, otherwise, they were reacting to this match like you'd want them to. They were behind Cody, and they'd chant for him and, cheering for the underdog. But whenever the tables, we have made the tables in wrestling more popular than the fucking wrestlers. Because now, no matter who, Mother Teresa, or this innocent 6-month-old baby, we're going to put them through a table. The people will fucking cheer because the tables are more popular than the wrestlers. It wasn't Seth and Cody that did this. It was everybody involved in wrestling that couldn't stop with the furniture. The bull rope spot I liked because at least they got some time out of it. And it was what do the kids say, a callback to Dusty. By the time they got into the go home spots with the false finishes, they were getting big fucking pops on the 2 counts. And then again, the other thing I didn't like about it, now that I'm counting them, the sledgehammer, god damn it. It's just ridiculous.
That was a callback, though, we're talking callbacks.
I know, the breaking the throne, because Triple H, but I said the same thing when Triple H used a sledgehammer. Anybody else that's ever used a sledgehammer. If you've got a sledgehammer and it takes more than one shot and you don't win, but at least they kept the sledgehammer in play without finally somebody got hit with it. There wasn't they kept fumbling and etc. But again, finally, and even they milked it good at the end. Cody couldn't lift the fucking hammer. But then Seth tried to get it, but Cody hit the crossroads and got the hammer, and then he couldn't swing it, so he did the shot to the head, which was because that's, again, at least another loophole they're closing. A poke with a sledgehammer is not the natural way that you would hit with a sledgehammer. But since he couldn't swing it because of his bad arm, the poke was somewhat reasonable. So I'm not against one-armed people using a sledgehammer in that fashion. But I mean, what a match layout, and Cody was not going to fucking let anybody down and screw up this babyface spot that he has manipulated himself into and created. He was going to, goddamn, if his arm had fallen off, he was probably going to do that. I'm kind of surprised they let him when they could see that looked that bad, but at the same time, the doctor probably said, well, he can't tear it anymore. But I thought a tremendous fucking match.
Really good match. My only issues were beyond, anything weapon-wise that I had a problem with. It was hard to watch at times because you could tell this guy's in a lot of fucking pain. There's no way to look like that and not just be in excruciating pain. But you said Cody manipulated and whatever, clawed his way. He's earned it now. He certainly has earned it, and those fans there are reacting to him exactly how they should. I'm curious what you think Vince's reaction was to the news that Cody got hurt, and then to the idea that Cody was insistent on working. And what do you think of people that are blaming Vince for the match happening? Because there is an audience for that, too, I've seen.
Blaming him for it?
How dare he force this guy to wrestle? Look at
what the... I'm sure... Here's the thing. Cody... That's probably where his familial silver tongue that he got from his daddy came in handy, because I'm sure he did some fancy talking to get Vince to go for it. At the same time, he probably didn't have to do as much fancy talking as somebody would have had to if it was 15 or 20 years ago when Vince had buku of stars on the roster waiting to just move right into that spot. But if it was done... If he really just tore it working out, Vince is going to have no heat with him whatsoever, because that shit happens, right? If he'd done it trying to help an old lady across the street, I bet Vince would have been hot. You fucking idiot, the pay-per-view. She could have made it on her own. But working out, I'm pretty sure he's got a pass there. And the fact that Cody not only wanted to work, but did work and worked to that level and probably talked him into it, Vince into it as well. I don't know how much arm twisting it took. That's a good sign also. I don't think Vince is going to penalize or give up on anything he's been doing because of this. The question becomes, how long is that? Did Cena do a pec or a bicep at one point? And
I want to remember.
He came back.
Was that when he got stabbed, or in storyline got stabbed by Jesus?
Oh, I didn't see it, but I remember hearing about it. Probably. I don't know, but he came back in a ridiculous amount of time because Cena is a goddamn freak. Normal humans, this is going to be 3 or 4 months, I would think, at least. So the question is, and what Cody knows what he has to watch out for. He's got to watch out for somebody inexplicably and suddenly coming up from the outside, Beetle Bomb from the outside, moving up the rail. Somebody just suddenly gets over and is like, oh, wow, looky here. And when you see this roster, I think that's a long shot. Or Vince gets another idea and Cody's out long enough that Vince is like, well, we should go in this. And then he starts liking what he's doing. And it's just Vince's attention span. If he cools off at that point, because he's all fired up now, but in 3.5 months, maybe not so much. And he thinks that's what you got to watch out for with Vince. And I'm not saying he would fire Cody. He'd still come back and have a big return and blah, blah, blah. It's just, sometimes you got to watch out that if Vince cools off on something, if it doesn't materialize right away and he has to wait on it. That's the only thing I'd be worried about if I was Cody. But again, it's more to Vince losing his focus or, the taste for the whole thing or just the gung-ho-ness rather than anybody else coming along that's going to take the spot away from him, because who the fuck would that be right now?
That's the other thing I was going to say. If I was Cody, I would bet on the fact that in 3 months there will be no other main eventers that have truly been developed. It'll just be the same people being moved around, just like they just did on Monday.